Hey everybody, welcome back to this series on using flowing water in Planet Coaster. As I said in the previous video, I'd like to try making different types of weir. I want to have a go at a V-notch weir. I'd like to build a weir with logs, maybe something like a beaver dam, a weir with an arch, and maybe just a sort of, I guess, a natural waterfall. So in this second video, I started out by experimenting with different water levels or heights of the water and the width of the land gap that has to be between the two bodies of water until the game deletes one of the water bodies. You can see in the clip that the water bodies keep appearing and disappearing as I'm manipulating the dimensions of the land gap. It turns out that you don't need a full 4-meter tile between the two bodies of water, but I couldn't get it down to less than 2 meters. So it's somewhere between 2 and 3 meters, or around the 3-meter mark, that the game seems to think that the two sides, or the say the boundaries or the limits where the water level touches the terrain, have now become merged and they are one. So it deletes one of the bodies of water, or both of them. So I was messing around with the width of the land gap and how much of a gap between the upper water level and the land level of the land gap I could get away with. You can get the land level of the land bridge quite close to the water level on the upper side. Turns out not equal with it, but pretty close to it. Certainly well under half a meter, I think, in game altitude. So once I'd got that to as tight as I could get it, I started to experiment with putting different types of wall in between. I was going for a V-notch weir, so as you can see in the clip, I've got a V-notch weir coming along here, just experimenting with different colors to see what looks good, and then I sort of fleshed it out with some rocks and eventually some plants and so on. So really it was just experimenting with the profile of it such that it looked like it was how a weir would look naturally. And of course in reality the gap across a weir might be only as thick as one plate of steel, so it might only be a few centimeters or an inch or so, whereas of course in game you've got to make this thing 2 to 3 meters wide. So you've got to create some sort of an optical illusion that makes it look okay without it sort of being strange that you've got this really wide V-notch weir going on here. So adding a lot of scenery and rocks to decorate it and try and make it look okay from both directions, so that if you're used to seeing V-notch weirs in photographs and so on, then you've got this optical illusion that makes it look like it's okay. It's only when you're looking directly down on it that it looks a little strange. Well, some of the other challenges that I've had with this is because the land bridge has to be higher than the water level on both sides. You've got to experiment with the way that we use water jets. If the water jet is pointing directly sideways, you get this thin tube of water which doesn't look particularly natural. And if you use the bubbling, say fountain jets, or the ones with the splashes in them, they don't look right either. But then the flowing ones, when they come to the top of the arc, they have a sort of a spitting regular pulse pattern to them, which also looks very strange. So the idea, I think, was to mix these together and to create a sideways appearance of sideways movements of the water as it comes to the top of the arc, whilst at the same time having splashes going on at different locations. Using the copy facility in the game was slightly problematic as well, because the patterns on the patterns of the water patterns, or the patterns of the flow, then look far too regular for it to look natural. I think I've set that mainly by staggering a few of them, and also by mixing the rocks differently so that they obscure different parts of the flow of the water. So even though the water arcs were flowing simultaneously the way the game renders them, it didn't look that way because the rocks were sort of messing up the appearance of it. And so the visual effect wasn't too bad. I'm not completely happy with this version. I'm going to have a go at using logs, I think, in the next video. And also, or maybe in the next video, I'll experiment with different ways of making the water flow work. So you can see here that I'm trying to get the water flow to look more natural, experimenting with different positions for the jets and different positions for the rocks. I pulled the whole thing right away from the terrain. I found it useful as well to put a slab down, like a roof piece, so that you can see the you can line up the tops of the arcs of these jets. Because if you try and do that by eye without a flat piece in the middle to get your levels right, it starts to look very bouncy, and then when you are looking at it from an angle, it looks completely off. So I used a roof tile to get everything to line up nicely, and then once I'd got it looking okay, pulled it back into the actual location, and then covered the jets with rocks, and then added a little more scenery. See, I'm flicking around a wee bit, checking the sight line from the path I have there, where I want my guests to walk down from an alpine setting in a different area of the park, and then come down into this country manor type setting. And the first sight line they're going to get as they come out of the hills is a water mill with this weir in front of it. So I was checking that constantly. I did slow down the video here. That's not quite normal speed. That's 1.5 speed, because I had a lot of time where I was just sitting there staring at it, thinking, what else can I do with this? So those splashes are a little unnatural because they're a little too fast, but I think we're getting there. It's close. I'm going to have another try at it and see if I can get it to look even more natural, perhaps with using wood rather than the bricks. It was quite difficult to get the upstream side of the weir looking natural, where without those jets coming out, and it obviously looks like water jets. I mean, it doesn't look like the water is striking rocks in the way that I want. It looks like water jets, which is not really the effect I'm going for. So in the next version, I'll put some logs there, and I think that the upward rising arc will look like it's flowing over the curve of the log, which I think will look okay, whereas having it flowing over the sharp angular lip of brickwork, it just doesn't look too good to me. On the downstream side, pretty happy with that. I think that's a reasonably good shot, so I'll be reusing that. And then just to close the video, I was experimenting over here with different rock formations, different ways of laying a roof tile, so I can see whether the water level is consistent, or sorry, the splash level is consistent from those jets. You can see there's a lot of jets involved, and that was a bit laggy. The game was starting to strain a bit when there's too many of those jets in shot. So, I'm going to have to experiment with trading off having a lot of jets versus as few as I can get away with, I guess. So in the next video, we'll have a go at different ways of building the weir, and we'll have a go at using logs, and eventually I'll put a water mill in there and see what that looks like. So thanks for watching. See you next time.